One issue of confusion that often comes up is the difference between the visa and your status and how to avoid problems that come up with that. Welcome back, everybody. My name's Charles Raether, and today I wanted to talk about this issue that sometimes creates problems for people. They might even be overstaying their time in the US, creating problems and limiting their ability and possibly creating a ban on their ability to come back to the US for maybe 3 years or even for a longer period of time. So listen in, because this is really important. There's a difference between what your visa is and what your status is. So when you come to the US, you might have a visa, and most people do have visas, unless they're part of the ESTA or Canadian citizens. When you have a visa, that tells you how long that visa is valid for. That does not mean how long you can stay in the US for. So think of it like this. The visa is like the ticket. You buy a ticket to a concert. The ticket is what gets you in. Once you get in, you can stay for the whole duration of the concert. Maybe there's going to be 2 concerts and you can stay, for both concerts or leave after one. That's kind of up to the other rules. But in order to get in initially, you need that valid ticket. That's what a visa is. But once you get in, then you really don't even look at the terms of your visa. You have to look at what your status is. And your status is determined by your I-94. Unfortunately, customs officers have stopped putting stamps in clients' passports. So you never can look at your passport to see exactly when does your status end. You have to go online. There's a specific site. We have a link here in the description below that shows you where you can go to check your status. So for example, let's say you entered the US yesterday. And let's say you entered, let's say on an E2 visa. And let's say your visa expires tomorrow. So that piece of paper you got from the embassy says, okay, the day after tomorrow, it's expiring. But when you enter at the airport, in most cases, there could be exceptions, but in most cases, if you have an E2, for example, they're going to give you 2 years status, even though the visa expires in a few days. Now, there could be circumstances where they give you a shorter period of time. And I have to tell you, sometimes they don't tell you about this. They don't give you a heads up. If you're a tourist, they usually give you 6 months, but they could give you 3, they could give you 2. I've seen it where they only gave people like 5 days and the person didn't know about it. So you always need to check the status on the website for CBP, Customs and Border Protection, to check out what your I-94 is, because the I-94 is what tells you how long you can stay in the US, not your visa. Now, what do you need to do if your status is about to expire? Well, that's a whole new issue in terms of what are the best options. You could look at, converting over to an F1 status, a student status, if you can get enrolled in a school quick enough. We could look at extending your current. You came as a student, maybe you came as an E2 holder. Depending on what that is, we could try to extend that. Or we could even file, a completely different petition. And there actually are a few green card categories that allow you to file for a new status in the US after your current status expired. So believe that. You can be out of status in certain cases, like with an EB1A, EB1C, EB5, you can be out of status up to 180 days, and you can still file your paperwork to adjust your status and stay here in the US. So that's a very valuable loophole many people don't know about. So again, if you're at risk of being out of status, or you already are out of status, you need to speak with an attorney ASAP, because once you're out of status for more than 180 days, automatic ban to re-enter the US for 3 years. So that 180-day mark is really critical, and you never want to exceed that. If you have any questions on how we could help you if you're in a similar situation, please reach out to us here at AmLaw Group, and I'm sure myself and my staff can put together a valuable and viable strategy for you.